the role of a strong accounting and financing team could certainly strategize avenues and expand a continuous growth in a business venture. Talking Point connects with Mr. Sanjaya Fernando, Group Finance Director of Laugfs Holdings Ltd. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to be here.
As a Group Finance Director, overseeing multiple functions such as corporate finance, tax, treasury, and financial reporting and planning, how do you ensure effective coordination and alignment across these areas to support the overall financial strategy of the conglomerate, particularly navigating the current economic challenges in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, Sabrina, in that case, what we do is particularly we establish clear communication lines. So if the 4 verticals that I am responsible for, that's tax, finance and finance reporting and planning, and then treasury and corporate finance, I need to ensure that all these 4 verticals are aligning with the corporate objective in order to deliver the required result. So formal and informal meetings will be a regular thing. In addition to that, communicating to them, okay, what is our strategic or organizational objective is, in addition to what are our challenges that what we need to encounter, will be communicated, and then we will also ensure cross-management teams are established to deliver a particular task, right? So how do we ensure that it's a cross-management team? Is like you will get a person from treasury, tax, financial reporting and planning, and then CorpFin also co-opted into the team, whereas the integrated result will cover the entire financial management aspect to deliver the corporate objective, or it's in line with the corporate objective that whatever we are doing, right? In addition to that, when we do planning, it will be an integrated planning. So how do we do integrated planning? So let's say I'm getting the corporate finance to deliver a particular result or initiative that we've come up with. Then corporate finance will take the input from all 4 verticals. In addition to that, financial strategy does not mean it's only these 4 verticals. It's to deliver the corporate objective at large. So we will have to link with the other teams like supply chain, and then HR, corporate communications. So all teams will have to be aligned in delivering a result. So integrated planning becomes a must. And after doing all this, if we don't get the result, we can initially establish it, Sabrina. But we have to ensure that the result is delivered. So continuous monitoring and reporting is a must. So monitoring also, we can't come up with a single monitoring mechanism, because if you take Sri Lanka, it's a very turbulent economic environment. In this economic environment, you have to be agile, you have to be alert, you have to come up with changes, you have to improvise, right? Because everything will not go as planned. So depending on the situation, we will have to adapt and change. Continuous monitoring and communication is one of the key areas that you need to follow in this process.
Could you share insights into your approach when it comes to managing the financial risk associated with operating across diverse business units within the conglomerate amidst the ongoing economic difficulties in Sri Lanka, and how do you mitigate these risks to ensure sustained financial stability and growth during these challenging times?
Yeah, so in that, Sabrina, what we do is we do a comprehensive risk assessment. So when it comes to a risk assessment, what we do is we do market risk assessment, then we will do the interest rate related risk assessment, exchange rate related risk assessment, and operational risk assessment. I mean, it's all other foreseen or unforeseen risk that you will have to assess on an ongoing basis. Then what we will do is we will come up with a strategy in order to see how we are going to mitigate these risks, and we will come up with risk mitigation strategies in the form of, let's say, example, revenue diversification. And then you can also take strategies like hedging, and you need to exit from a certain market, whether you're going to expand into a market depending on the situation to counter competition. So likewise, we will devise certain strategies to ensure that we are in sync with the risk that is foreseen, and we will have to review on a regular basis that also, and communicate effectively to the respective teams. These are the financial related risks that you need to watch for and be ready with, and come up with different strategies to ensure that we don't lose market share, or we don't lose the intended objective towards achieving the corporate goal.
With your extensive experience as a financial professional, how do you identify and evaluate potential investment opportunities or strategic acquisitions for the conglomerate, considering the economic constraints in Sri Lanka, and what criteria do you prioritize when making such decisions in the current economic climate?
So the current economic climate when it comes to Sri Lanka and the global context, both are in a challenged situation, right? So one would say, okay, let's start with a financial due diligence if we have a particular target to acquire or invest in. However, what the approach I would take is, before doing a financial due diligence, you need to do a market analysis. So in the form of looking at the economic indicators, because economy is turbulent, you need to look at the economic indicators first if you are interested in investing or taking over some entity or whatever. And then you need to see the market trend, industry trend rather, and you need to also see what is the competitive landscape is like, in addition to checking the regulatory framework. So let's say we are investing in a particular industry in Sri Lanka, then that industry specific regulatory framework needs to be checked. If we are investing outside Sri Lanka, then that has to be checked accordingly. This is the first step that we would do. Then next up, what we need to see is whether we have an appetite towards it based on our strategic goals, right? So we call it strategic fit. If strategically this fits into the organization's overall corporate objective, then we can decide, okay, we can tick that off. How are we going to tick that off? So it can be either market expansion. We are already in that business, we are going to expand. Then we can enter into a new market, completely new market, or we can completely diversify from our current landscape of doing business. So this will be the second tick that we will do in our checklist. Thirdly, and this will have to happen concurrently, the financial due diligence as well as risk assessment. So when we do a financial due diligence, we need to ensure that this is financially feasible, right? So you can do various due diligence methods are there. You can do it based on IRR, payback, or whatever. Let's not get into that detail, Sabrina. But along with that, a risk assessment needs to happen. So market risk assessment, then credit risk, everything needs to be assessed along with the investment and operational risk. So once these are done, then you go on with the investment strategy based on your preferred investment or capital mix. So that's how we will approach it.
Given your role as overseeing tax function for the group, how do you navigate complex tax regulations and optimize the conglomerate's tax strategy to maximize tax efficiency while ensuring compliance with local and international tax laws, particularly amidst the economic downturn in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so when it comes to taxation, which is one of my verticals, tax is one of the verticals under finance. So what we ensure is that we are up to date with the tax regulations. So we operate in Sri Lanka as well as outside Sri Lanka. So we need to be abreast with the latest tax regulations across the world. And when it comes to Sri Lanka, which is actually going through a turbulent situation with regard to taxation also. So if we are not up to date with the latest tax regulations, then we will have a problem, or we might get into a problem. So our teams ensure that we are abreast with the tax, and regular updates are given to the respective SBUs, also strategic business units that we deal in. And then next up, what we do is tax planning. So tax planning is critical in a situation such as this to ensure that we do our taxes efficiently and use our the group situation to maximize the benefit that we get of tax, and without violating any regulation and disturbing local tax authorities. Then what we will also do is transfer pricing. We will look at transfer pricing, which is key, because when you have SBUs that's dealing with different landscapes in business, you will have to ensure that the transactions that happens between organizations, Sabrina, is at arm's length. So if you don't do it at arm's length, then you will be disturbing the tax authorities and they'll be after you, and you don't want to get into that situation, especially when you're fighting fire with the economic situation in the country. So you will have to ensure that all the cogs of the wheel are tightly screwed when it comes to taxation especially. So that we follow a very rigorous process with regard to that. And regular updates is a must that happens for the teams. SBU finance teams are updated by our tax team, and we ensure that takes place. And regular meetings also ensures that we are up to date with regard to that. So that's the process that we follow there.
Given your role as overseeing treasury function, what strategies do you employ to effectively manage the conglomerate's liquidity, cash flow and capital structure during these economical difficult times in Sri Lanka, and how do you adapt these strategies to accommodate the diverse needs of the conglomerate's various business units and subsidiaries amidst the current economic challenges?
So amidst the current economic challenges, which as I mentioned globally, everyone goes through, all the companies, big or small, you face it at different levels. Cash flow management is definitely key. You have to ensure that you have forecasted your inflows and outflows properly. So we follow up with SBUs on a rigorous basis what their cash flow is like, to ensure that inflows are in order and outflows are matched accordingly. And then comes liquidity reserves, right? So liquidity reserves is a key area that we look into. Whereas, so you have money, but your plans are not going as you intended it to be, and then you need to have that money for the rainy day. So liquidity reserves are pushed for all the SBUs to ensure that they can meet the requirements on a rainy day. And then what we'll do is working capital management, which is one of the key strategies under treasury. Is what we do here is like any other finance expert would also do. We would ensure that receivables are fast-tracked and inventory is managed at an optimal level. Why I say optimal level is, in economies such as this, you can't be carrying inventory that is bleeding on the side of interest or not generating any money. And then creditors. So you negotiate with creditors through the supply chain. We do that. We negotiate with creditors to ensure that we get more favorable terms on a regular basis. And the relationship with banks also is a must, whereas you continuously have communication with banks to ensure that you're up to date with the market, especially now if you take the exchange rate. Currently Sri Lanka's exchange rate is around 310 levels. So this was predicted to be 330 by end of March 2025, about 2 weeks ago. Now we have to revisit on a regular basis to see where it will land for current financial years, rather 24-25 financial years forecast. So staying abreast with the market is a must, and regular communication with regard to that also. So I've been stressing on this fact called communication several times because that is the key. If you're not up to date and if you don't communicate, then you will end up in a situation that you don't want to be. At the end of the day, everything needs to be aligned to the strategic objective, and we have to ensure those goals are met without being disturbed. We have to realign timely. So for that, communication, Sabrina, is key.
Just to inquire with regard to a leadership role, how do you see effective leadership?
Effective leadership also is to do with effective communication. So I don't think you're a successful leader if you don't communicate effectively. So effective communication, taking care of your teams, and ensuring that the team is up to date with skill and knowledge to deliver the required corporate objective and goals. And then team understands, more than anything, team understands what you talk. If you expect something, that delivery needs to be as per the expectation. So that also will come with communication. So to get all this and to ensure that you meet the strategic goal, you need to have that clear line of communication going. So that's
not
the key.
Only the numbers should be doing the talking.
Yes, exactly. Numbers will be a clear representation of what you've done.
Exactly. Overseeing the group financial reporting and corporate finance functions, how do you balance the short-term financial goals of the conglomerate with its long-term strategic objectives, especially during these economic challenges in Sri Lanka?
So that's a good question and timely question, Sabrina, because why I'm saying this is now people might tend to take instant decisions given the economic situation of the country and the global economic situation. However, you shouldn't divert from the fact that you have a long-term strategic objective, and whatever that you're taking as a short-term decision is in alignment with the longer-term strategic objective. So that needs to be the first check. Once you do that, you have to do proper forecasting, budgeting, planning to ensure that you're in alignment always, and forecasting is also a must on a regular basis to ensure that market turbulence is addressed. Then what you do is in this landscape, your capital allocation should be of utmost importance, the way you allocate your capital, debt or equity, right? So when you're allocating capital, you need to ensure that you prioritize the ones that will really meet the overall objective, and then spend money on that or invest on those to ensure that you're generating the expected return that will ultimately drive the strategic goals of the organization also. And revisiting and reassessing on a regular basis where you are financially, and analysis that you carry out is in line with the requirement of the organization is also a must. And you will have to have continuous meetings with the teams to ensure that these teams are in line, they are in alignment with the overall strategic objective of the organization, and they are driving towards the required objective.
short-term plans could be effective, but then again, aligning it towards a long-term strategic approach is certainly an expertise role to be carried out. We were in conversation with Mr. Sanjaya Fernando, who happens to be the Group Finance Director of Laugfs Holdings Ltd. Thank you so much for connecting.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Pleasure
Thanks,
is
Sanjaya.
ours.